Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm back again with yet another main deck legend I've turned into a commander deck, and today is Ygra. I think that's how we say it anyway. Eater of all. 3 black and green for a 6/6 elemental cat. So we've got a new cat to play with, so that's quite nice. But ward, sacrifice of food. Okay. And then other creatures of food artifacts in addition to their other types, and have 2 sack, gain 3 life. You know the reason. But whenever a food is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Ygra, Eater of all. It's not your food, it's everybody's food. So if people sacrifice their creatures for any reason, you'll get 2 +1/+1 counters on Ygra if Ygra's in play. This is really good. I think it's a really strong card. I know it's not very popular. I haven't seen it in standard yet. I haven't seen people really going, oh, I want to play this in draft. But I think in Commander it has a real upside, and this is what today's deck is all about. So here we go. So we want to have a fair amount of creatures in the deck so we can sacrifice them for foods and then make Ygra bigger. But we also need a real good amount of mana so we can sacrifice these creatures to gain the life. It's very confusing, so it's a bit of a mismatch, this deck, but it works in the testing I've done. So Birds of Paradise kicks off a little bit of ramp, and then we have Cauldron Familiar. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 1, you gain 1. We all know this card from the combo decks from the original Eldraine set. And then you sacrifice a food and return the Cauldron Familiar from your graveyard to the battlefield. Right, so if we've got a load of creatures in play, we can sack them off because, and Yagra's in play, there'll be foods. We can sack them off, we bring the Cauldron Familiar back, drain someone. If we've got some way of then sacrificing the Cauldron Familiar, we get a little loop on the go until we run out of creatures. Yeah, I think it's quite a nice little thing. We have a lot of ramps, so we have Elves of Deep Shadow because, we are playing black. Yes, it deals damage, but the amount of life we should be gaining because of the foods we have shouldn't really be an issue. Then Mystic, Feyenoord, and Lanois are here as well. Gilded Goose comes in because at the end of the day it will create food tokens if we're desperate for a food token, or we can sacrifice a food. Another way, sacrifice things for 3, which is important in this deck, to get 1 mana of any colour. So hey, we have some way of doing things. Viscera Seer is here to give us another free sacrifice outlet to sacrifice our creatures off once they become foods and Yagra's in play. The Blood Artist makes an appearance whenever another creature dies, target player loses 1, you gain 1. You have to target the player that's won. It's not great, but it does work still in the deck. Dina's in, so that when we gain life, each opponent loses life, which, yay. Thornvault Void Forager. This gives us a nice little mana ramp, which is better than some of the other things because we will have foods that we can sacrifice to get 2 mana each turn if we need to. Or, just tap it and add a green. The third ability, sacrifice to get another squirrel, is probably irrelevant in this deck. It'll probably be at home one of the decks that I may look at in the future. Vermin Gulch is here, another kind of free sacrifice thing. Sacrifice a creature, each opponent loses 2, we gain 2. Another way of sacking our creatures off when they're foods. Zulaput Cutthroat had to be here. Another creature, we know this one, if one loses 1, we gain 1. Academy Manufacturer, and we do have some ways of creating food tokens, so it makes sense to have this, maybe get a bit of card draw with a clue or a treasure token, but at the end of the day it's a colourless food when Yagra's in play. Baba Yasi, the Night Witch, is also here. Sacrifice up to 3 permanents. If there are 3 or more permanent card types amongst the sacrifice permanents, each opponent loses 3, we gain 3. A little bit tricky, but we have a couple of things we can do this with, so hopefully we'll be able to get there. Braids Arisen Nightmare also makes an appearance, so people can sacrifice things at the end of each turn if we sacrifice something off. Camilla, the Seedmeister, is also in. Does mean we can use the Thornvault Forager a little bit more to go and search this out if we want to, but whenever you sacrifice 1 or more foods, we get a green squirrel creature token. Sacrifice a food, get a token. If Yagra's in play, that token is also a food, so we can do it again. It's very confusing, so there's some little loops that could happen. I have a horrible feeling that when I play this on MTGO, I may crash MTGO, but hey, we'll see how it goes. Quartzberry Cultivator, Forage, put +1/+1 counter on it. Very simple, straightforward. Then we have the things that make everyone sacrifice things. So Demon's Disciple, Flesh Bag, Grave Lighter, Ahin. Gumdrop Poisoner is next. Gives us an adventure to get a food token, and then we can drop it into play off the adventure to give something -X -X with the amount of life we gained this turn. So pretty doable. Kiss It, the Flesh Sculptor, sacrifice 3 other artifacts, and remember, all of our creatures become food artifacts, so it's quite easy. Look at the top 3 cards of our library, 2 in our hand, 1 on our graveyard. Nice little bit of card filtering and drawing if we need it. Loyal Subordinate is just here because I did think about playing the green one as well, but I just went with the black one in the end, purely because it's a 3 life each opponent loses, so that does help a bit if we've got Ygra in play in this. Marauding Blight Priest is also in. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Nice. Merciless Execution is the other come into play, sacrifice and everyone sacks something. Fantastic if Yagra's in place. You play this, everyone has to sack a creature. That will be a food. Ygra gets very big very quickly, so yeah, we'll go with that. Nadir's Nightblade, whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and gains 1 life. Like I say, we do have tokens in the deck, and I'll just put it in here as a little bit of fun to back things up. Peregrine Took gives us food tokens when we create tokens, so yay. And we get sacrifice 3 foods to draw a card, which in this deck really does help. Rapturous Guest, whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to play, you get food. Sack a food, put a +1/+1 counter on the Rapturous Guest, another free sacrifice effect when we sacrifice 1 anyway. It gets bigger. And then when the guest dies, target opponent loses life equal to its power. Okay. Vicona, Draw Apostle, beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 more creature cards in your graveyard, you get 1 back to your hand at random. Cool, gives us a way we bring our foods back to our hand. And all the Gardener gives us a food token at the beginning of your end step. If you sacrifice the food, you go and get a basic land. Gluttonous Troll is just gives us a food token. We can sacrifice another non-land permanent to make it bigger. A little bit costly, but we can do it. Naim, the Master Chef, is also here. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures you had enter the battlefield under your control this turn. So more foods, and you can sacrifice food for 1 and give a target creature indestructible until the end of turn and tap it. Nice. Pitiless Plunderer, when our creatures die, we get treasure tokens, so we help with our mana that way. Poison Tipped Archer, whenever a creature dies, each opponent loses 1. See where it's going, can't you? Because we're playing black, had to play Gary. Sorry. Magic, Cruel Death Priest. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Mazrik gets very out of hand very quickly in this deck if it's not dealt with. I'll get to it, but I know there's not things like Swiftfoot Boots in here and so on and so forth, so we have to be a little bit careful, but you know, it works. Seedborn Muse, so we can do our little untap tricks every turn. And then Salvage Titan. Nice way of getting our creatures, you know, if we need to sacrifice 3 creatures off maybe to get in, we can sacrifice 3 of them because they're all artifacts with Ygra in play and play this. Don't see Salvage Titan that often. I thought we'll run it in this deck and it actually works pretty well. Few Planeswalkers, not too many, that all help. Grist the Tide Hunger just gives us an insect token every turn that turns into a food, which is nice. Who doesn't want to eat insects? Yeah, okay. Liliana of the Veil. Each player sacrifices, target player sacks a creature, each player discards a card. You know what Liliana does. She's here just for a little bit of fun. Obnixilus, the Black Oath, gives us a way to each opponent loses 1 life and we gain all that life, and then demons, and then hopefully get an emblem and sacrifice creature, you gain X life and draw X cards for X that creature's power. So end of the day could help. Final one, Tevash Sat, Doom of Fools. +2 is fine to give us some Thrall creature tokens, which become foods, which are very useful. Or +1, you can sacrifice another creature, draw 2 cards, then draw another card of the sacrifice permanent was a commander. And then if we get the -10 off, we're probably winning the game in all honesty. Spells wise, Final of Eternity to bring everything back from the graveyard eventually. Hopefully we'll get up to the X is 10 quite quickly with this deck. I've got a trick or 2 coming up to help us with that. Nature's Law, 3 visits. Cultivate to go and do the ramp. Damnation to control the board. Ranger's Path, Skyshroud Claim to go and fetch forests out of our deck. Living Death, does kind of benefit our opponents as well, but it does give us a way of getting everything back from the graveyard if we're running short and bring everything back. Plus it might wipe the board a little bit more for us if we need it to. And then finally, 9 mana, Rise of the Dark Realms. I still have not cast this card in a Commander game on MTGO or in real life, but I'm going to keep trying, so it's in here today. Artifacts wise, Elixir of Immortality to shuffle everything back in if it goes pear-shaped as usual. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Mind Stone, Talisman of Resilience, Thought Vessel give us some artifact ramp, and then we also have 2 sack ones, Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar. Again, another way of just free sacrificing creatures if we need to make Ygra up to that level where basically we win, hopefully. 3 enchantments, nothing too fancy. Cloakwood Hermit comes in as a background one to give us some extra. If we're beginning or end step, if a creature card is pinned to your graveyard from anywhere this turn, we get a couple of squirrel tokens. Nice. Gives us another couple of foods that are tapped, ready for the next turn. Parallel Lives, Doubling Season, you know what they do. They double up on everything, especially the +1/+1 counters that we get for Ygra with double seizing, which is lovely. Beyond that, the usual selection of black and green lands all the way through. I am breaking my own personal rule when I'm playing Cabal Coffers and Nykthos Shrine to Nyx in decks that aren't monocoloured, especially with the Cabal Coffers because it's black, but we do really want to have as much mana as possible each turn, and with Seedborn Muse in the deck, that does help us get there, because obviously we do want to try and sacrifice foods where we can, or sacrifice the creatures, so we need mana to do that. So I had to think of a way around it. The only reasonable way I could come up with is Nykthos and Cabal Coffers, to which extent Urborg's in here. I've also included Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, because if you have it in one, you might as well have the other one in the deck, especially if the colours match. Beyond that, nothing you really wouldn't expect. I'm not playing Reliquary Tower for a change or Temple of the False God. Decided against not having them in the deck for a change. Shoot me. But that's it for today. That is my take on Ygra. My limited bit of testing has shown that Ygra is quite good fun. I played one game on MTGO with it, and it does work really well. So yeah, I'm hoping you've enjoyed this one. I'm sitting now at 481 subscribers here on YouTube, so if you enjoyed today's video or you want to help me out, please hit the subscribe button down below. Help me get to my 500 target. If you want to see me play Ygra, I'll be playing it on stream at some stage this week, hopefully, assuming depending how work goes, obviously, but we'll try and get streaming it this week. But you'll see Ygra when it comes out. But for now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you think there's anything major I've missed out. Yes, I know, like I said, Swiftfoot Boots is missing. The other ones are missing. I know Lava Spike Boots is the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I know they could possibly be in here to help Ygra out, but I think we'll be alright without them. So for now, thanks for watching. Take care. Hope to see you soon. Bye.